All right. So Jeffrey Epstein, according to this new trove of his emails, which were delivered to the House of Representatives by his estate due to a subpoena, revealed that Jeffrey Epstein had been advising the Russian government on how to deal with Donald Trump. Again, it feels grisly to laugh at any of this because obviously what underpins all of this is Jeffrey Epstein's disgusting, gut-wrenching crimes against underage girls, which, by the way, is why people care so deeply about the Jeffrey Epstein files. It's why people are always fixated on it. Because when such a tremendous wrongdoing, evil, no matter who you are, this is the very definition of evil. When an evil act like that is committed in our country, and the person who committed that act, when it's widely known also, right? Like, this is not hard to prove. And the person who committed that act gets off easy. That's injustice. And it's one thing if there's injustice when it's like, not to downplay this, but like a financial white collar crime, right? When it's not as just abjectly morally repugnant as the outright evil of hurting young girls sexually. And to think that, we have to have faith in our justice system. We want to have faith in our justice system. But when we see our justice system fall short in such a high profile and grisly case like this, people just don't tolerate it. They can't tolerate it. Because when there's an injustice like this, that desire to have trust in your justice system is eroded. So even though I sit here today and I say I want to have faith in our justice system, we have the best justice system in the world. It's not perfect, but this adversarial justice system that guarantees due process, where there's the presumption of innocence until proven guilty, where everyone faces equality, equal treatment, no matter what you do for a living, no matter who you are, no matter how rich you are. This is fundamental to our justice system. It's something that we're proud of. And when we see this fall short, not just in a way that, no system is perfect, not just in a way that, a human constructed system of justice is never going to be as perfect as God's justice. But when we see corruption infiltrate our justice system, then we worry about whether we can have faith in this system and whether, if injustice was permitted or deliberately constructed for someone like Jeffrey Epstein because of how rich he was, because of how powerful he was, because of how connected he was, then that wasn't a one-time isolated incident. It means it can and it will happen again. And I don't know about you, but that's not something that I can stomach. All of that being said, that is the reason people care about the Epstein files. It's not just because people have this morbid curiosity of, dirty, juicy things that Jeffrey Epstein did. The reason we care about it is because of the injustice. That being said, there is some poetic justice in this particular email. This particular email this is a 2018 email in which Jeffrey Epstein is giving advice to Vladimir Putin about Donald Trump. He's offering insight on Donald Trump in order to help the Russians stage whatever it is the Russians were staging, their efforts against Donald Trump. And the reason that I said there's some dark humor associated with this is because think about Russiagate. Think about how many years we spent hearing the Democrats claim that Donald Trump was colluding with Vladimir Putin. Russia, Russia, Russia. Vladimir Putin is just the puppeteer and Donald Trump is the puppet. Russia has engaged in electioneering. They've meddled in the 2016 election. That's why Donald Trump was elected instead of Hillary Clinton. How many years did we hear that Trump was a Russian asset? Constantly, viciously, from the mainstream media, from Democrat influencers, from elected Democrat officials. And yet the truth of the matter is the actual meddling, the actual meddling and the actual collusion with Russia came from Jeffrey Epstein, who hated Donald Trump, hated him, bitterly hated him, according to the lawyer of the victims, Bradley Edwards, according to Michael Wolff, who had inside access to Jeffrey Epstein, because he was hated. Donald Trump was hated by Jeffrey Epstein because Donald Trump cooperated with authorities and informed on Jeffrey Epstein once he found out what Jeffrey Epstein was doing with underage girls, the crimes that he was committing. Now you don't wonder so much, do you, why the House Democrats didn't want this entire trove released, why they wanted to selectively cherry pick particular emails that they thought that they could use to portray Trump, really falsely accuse him is what they're doing, falsely accuse him of being associated with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes because of this really weird, bizarre, obsessive fixation the Democrats have with trying to associate Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, even though there's never been, and there continues to be, zero evidence that Donald Trump was involved with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes or even knew about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. The Democrats want it to be true, so they are trying to convince you to ignore the evidence before your very eyes and believe them instead. Now, Jeffrey Epstein corresponded with some interesting people. And when I say interesting, I say that tongue-in-cheek here. I'm saying it's interesting why he would be corresponding with these people, not that the people themselves were particularly interesting. And we'll get to that in just a second, too. But the media's role in this whole thing, whether it's the New York Times tipping off Jeffrey Epstein that he was being investigated, again, that there was a follow-up investigation being conducted by law enforcement, or whether it's Michael Wolff, who portrays himself as a biographer, a reporter who writes books about rich and powerful people. You know, Michael Wolff was also advising Jeffrey Epstein on how to blackmail Trump. That's right. You heard me correctly. On how to blackmail Trump in order to hurt the Republican Party. This is a man who's supposed to be a biographer. He's just supposed to write and report about the people, to paint a picture of who they are. He is plotting with Jeffrey Epstein on how to blackmail Trump. If we can bring that up on the screen. This seems significant to me. Here we go. All right. This is from Michael Wolff. Now, this is back in 2015. Back in 2015, the end of December 15th, Michael Wolff writes to Jeffrey Epstein and says, I hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you. He's writing to Jeffrey Epstein, either on air or in the scrum afterwards. Now, don't you wonder, first of all, how did Michael Wolff hear about what CNN was planning to ask Donald Trump during a debate? I thought those questions were totally confidential. Oh, are they not? Jeffrey Epstein responded to Michael Wolff and said, if we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be? Hypothetically crafting an answer for Trump. This is what Michael Wolff responded to Jeffrey Epstein. He said, I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. There's the blackmail. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey's a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. To summarize that bluntly, Michael Wolff was crafting Jeffrey Epstein's response to, he was then only president, or he was then candidate Trump. It was during the campaign, in order to try to hurt President Trump and the GOP, in order for Jeffrey Epstein to have blackmail power, coercive power over Donald Trump. When we wrote the title of this episode, new Epstein emails reveal the grisly truth. What is that grisly truth? Well, the grisly truth is not what the mainstream media wants you to think it is. It is not that Donald Trump that it's been revealed that Donald Trump had some association with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, or that he was aware of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and did nothing about it. It's not that there's any new information in any way, shape, or form that implicates Trump in anything. The grisly truth is that the mainstream media and the Democrats hate you. They think you're stupid. They manipulate you. They lie to you in order to try to plant ideas in your head, to try to brainwash you into hating the person that they want you to hate. And in order to try to coerce you into feeling the way that they want you to feel, they have to lie to you, and they have to lie by omission to you. Understand that the Democrats, the House Democrats and the mainstream media are deliberately staging a snow job against you. And they know what they're doing. This isn't just, they have a different perspective, and so their perception of this is a little bit different. They are deliberately trying to trick you, to control your mind and your words and your thoughts and your actions. And that is so despicable. So despicable. In these emails, by the way, before we even get to that one, I forgot about this. The Democrats actually deleted a post that they had posted. Again, they're in this desperate, obsessive effort to associate Donald Trump with Epstein's crimes, which they can't because there's no evidence of Donald Trump ever doing anything wrong or knowing about it. They posted a post about or accusing Donald Trump of spending Thanksgiving with Jeffrey Epstein, but in 2017, which would be while President Trump was president. That was during his first term. And this, the amount of views and impressions, this went wildly viral instantly. But it turns out they had to delete it because it was a lie. It was a hoax. They propagated a hoax because they so desperately want to believe this, and they want you to believe this, and they have absolutely no respect for the truth. None. They have no moral compass whatsoever. None. But they then ignore at the same time the context. The context is important. There's associations, and I mentioned this before. There are some interesting people that Jeffrey Epstein was emailing, not because the people themselves are interesting, but because it's interesting that Jeffrey Epstein would be emailing them specifically. He emailed the White House counsel during the Obama administration. We can bring this up. Why would Jeffrey Epstein be emailing the White House counsel, Catherine Rumler? And what did he say to her? He says that she should speak to the boss. Well, who's the boss? Her boss is Barack Obama, who was president at the time. So Jeffrey Epstein is talking to Obama's White House counsel, giving her directions about what to say to the boss. And yet, the Democrats have no interest in looking into that. There's something there.